All right. Well, we'll cover, I guess, kind of initially. Let's go through Brian's question, which is the response to kind of one of those questions. How do I, do I have to decide today? And then we'll get into some of the in-depths of quoting and how to utilize good quoting habits inside the home, how to get things quickly. I think that's probably one of the scariest things starting out in this business is not being able to get to something as quick as you need to. And oftentimes when a client's looking over your shoulder and needing this and that, we get a little bit, I guess, flustered is a good word. So practicing all of this that we're going to talk about from a quoting standpoint, practicing this, on your family, on your friends, on yourself, on, role playing it with the mirror, things of that, and anything that will get you to understand where all of this stuff is quickly. And one other thing I'm going to address at the end is a good practice that Elazar does, and that is that he's got all the bookmarks for everything he possibly needs on his browser. And he has shared that HTML snippet, that the ability to have the same exact bookmarks that he has. So we're going to try to cover that as well if we have time. So Brian asked a good question, and the question is this: how do you respond when the client says, "Do I have to decide today?" And I guess initially, Brian, I would ask, when is that happening? Is it at the beginning? Is it at the end? What part of the presentation are you hearing that?
Well, which I've changed around a little bit what I do, and I'm filling out the application as we go, and like I'll assume the sale or whatever, get to the point where they've said, I see value in this one, whatever, but then like I turn the application around and it's like, I don't know if that's knocking them back or what, but I'm getting it at the very end when even after they've said, this is what I think I should go with, and I don't know, I don't know exactly what I'm saying to get that, I guess, or
Sure.
or how to overcome that when I do.
So you may be doing this at the beginning some, I don't know, or maybe you need to be very specific on it. And I would like to actually hear, since Omar's new in the field, I'd like to hear some of his response too. But I know for me, the times that I have heard that response, I have not been specific at the very beginning about getting them to agree that we're actually going to take an application today.
Okay.
So, you might want to sit a little bit at the very beginning when you go through, because I always explain, at the very beginning, kind of
Right.
what I do, what my role is, things of that nature.
Right.
But
And I have got it at the beginning too before, you know, like before we even sit down, they'll say, I'm not going to decide anything today.
and you'll get that, and my response is that's okay.
Okay.
I always tell people, and this is one of the presentations that we're going to actually give in Tulsa, but the title of it is "How to Be the Worst Salesman Ever." So you guys are definitely going to want to hear that one. I tell people though, if you guys are expecting me to sell you something, I hate to let you down. I don't have anything to sell you.
Right.
I'm not going to pull something out of my briefcase at the end and say, you got it on discount today for $9.99. People laugh, I try to get them to kind of loosen up about that. And I tell them, guys, my role, the most important thing for me is to make sure you guys are educated. I want to know that you're educated. I want to know that you know what this is, what this isn't. If it fits in your budget, if it makes sense, if you guys feel like there's value in what it is that we are talking about today, then I will help you apply today. Is that fair? So I want them to agree. Now, if they're going to fight me there and they're going to say, no, well, I don't want to make a decision today. Okay, I get that. You might need some time to think about it. Okay. And I understand that. But again, let me reiterate. If you guys understand what it is, if it fits in the budget, if you have value and you see the value in what it is, I will show you guys how to apply. Is that fair? That you kind of have to fight through that. If people just put up opposition and go, Mike, I'm not filling anything out today, then I'll drop it, go through the presentation, and then when I know that I'm already not going to take an application. So I'm not going to fight them on at the end, but I will ask why at the end. So what's preventing you from being able to make a decision? Do you need to think on it? Do you need to, are you meeting with someone else to kind of make comparisons on? How can I help you make a decision? Because my job is to make sure you're protected. And if I leave today and you don't have anything, Sally's not protected. And you guys realize that, right? Like if you die today, your home will probably more than likely go into foreclosure because you don't have anything.
Right.
So you kind of have to, it's a process of uncovering their why. Why did you sit down? Why did you have, me come out here? Why are you spending time with me? Then making sure that you sit on the idea of making sure that they know your intent. You are going to fill out an application. That is your intent. Now I tell people, if it makes sense, if you find value, if it fits in the budget, okay, I don't just say we're going to fill out an application.
Right.
So you got to preface it with all, because most people are comfortable with that. I mean, if I had someone in my house and they said, yeah, if it makes sense, if I find value in it, dude, I'm going to buy. I mean, but if it doesn't make sense and I don't have value and it doesn't fit in my budget, you're out the door. I'm not going to buy anything. So it's not like I'm locking them in and they don't have any say. So I find that when I don't do a real good job in the very beginning of that, and I don't address it, then it tends to be the biggest problem in the end.
Okay.
And the other thing I would tell you is when you're going through it at the end, you got to have the uncomfortable conversation of why do you feel this way? Help me understand, because my job is to help you, okay? My job is to be an advocate for you. I'm here working for you. So what can I do to help you make a decision? And quite frankly, it doesn't need to be a yes. It really needs to be a yes or a no. What's really hard for me, if you put yourself in my shoes, what's really hard for me is if clients say, I don't know, maybe. Like, I can't help maybe.
Right.
So I would rather you say, Mike, I'm not interested. I don't want this. Because then I've done my job. But and I tell people this oftentimes when I'm getting in this conversation at the very end and I'm really going to address this concern. If I walk out this door today and your response to me is, I'll think about it. I'll call you in a week. Here is the reality. I've done this for 7 years. Out of those 7 years, I can count on one hand how many people have actually called me back and said, I'm ready.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. So again, let me help you. Let's make a decision one way or the other. If it's no, that's fine. If it's yes, great. Let's help, even if we need to get together again to do some additional things, that's fine. But what I can't help is maybe. I can't help anything there. When you have those types of very candid conversations, and when you address I tell agents all the time, anytime you feel uncomfortable, you have to embrace that. You have to push towards it. If you feel like you're having an uncomfortable conversation, address it. Don't run from it. If you feel like you need to ask a question that might be a little bit challenging for them to answer, ask it. Be respectful, but ask it. It's those people that ask the tough questions are the ones that get the better premium, the bigger applications, they end up covering their mom, dad, grandparent, all the other, people in their household. So you got to you can't run from that kind of a conversation when they say, I want to think about it. You got to dig in and ask follow-up questions and find out why they're saying what they're saying. Is that helpful?
Yes, very.
Okay. I'd rather know going out of that meeting that it's an absolute no. I'd rather know if they're going to meet with someone else. And whenever they say they're going to meet with someone else, I tell them, hey, guys, just do me a favor, and that is you didn't make a decision with me today. Don't make a decision with them. Hear them out, get the options, and let's schedule a meeting for, let's say, a couple of days after you meet with them, and let's just lay it out. I'm a broker. I work with any company that we can have access to, I can work with. So there's nothing that you're going to see from them that I can't provide. What you need to decide is, who do you want to work with? Because the product's going to be the same. You really need to determine who is going to be the person on the other end of the check that's handing it to the spouse when something happens. You need to decide who you're going to actually want to work with, because that's just as important as the company and the product. So those are all the conversations that I have on those, is I tend to, because here's the worst thing that can happen. They get pissed off at you and they get mad and they tell you to leave. Okay, well, now I know you don't want it. Like, okay, cool. I'm on to my next meeting. That's fine. And I've rarely had that happen. But I will tell you this, and Brian, you probably, since you've been in the business long enough, you probably know this. The most difficult clients are the ones that get irritated and bothered. And I've had clients that have borderline tried to sue me over stupid stuff because they didn't get their way.
Right.
So, anytime someone's kind of pushing me and ruffling my feathers, I'm not going to do that over a $600 app. That it's not worth it. I'll let the next person take that and hopefully deal with them. So got to address it, got to kind of push it head on, make sure you address the questions. And again, like I said, oftentimes when I get those responses, it's because I haven't done a good job setting it up in the very beginning. That's what I found. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Omar, would you add anything? I mean, I know that you've been out there, you've taken a lot of applications. Have you gotten that response, and how do you respond?
I get that response quite a bit. And I'll give you an example. I went to Santa Fe one of the times and I was greeted like this. The guy walked in, the guy told me, you know what, just to let you know, I'm not buying anything today. I said, okay, fair enough. Okay, can I come in? He said, yeah, go ahead. So I kind of blocked that out. I don't even think about it. I pretend like he never said it, because I've learned that once I get irritated, I pass it on to them. Mm-hmm. So I block it out completely. I don't think about it whatsoever. All I do is I sit down and I go through the regular routine. As I'm hearing Mike, I use that scripture a lot. As I go through right there, I tell them, this is what my job is. And I tell them, I'm going to start showing you the options. And I got this from an agent training. And I basically say, because there's actually a scripture right there you can download, and it tells you right there. And I carry it with me. I try not to pull it out unless I'm in a bind. But every time before I go to a meeting, I'll tell you what I do. And I got this from Chris. I get to the parking lot. I get to like 5 or 10 minutes early. I sit right there for a little bit. I pray a little bit. And then I rehearse what I'm going to tell them. And I carry the in-home script with me. And I kind of review it every time before every meeting before I go in. And one of the things it does say, as I'm hearing Mike, you can explain your role and purpose. I explain what my role is. I let them know, hey, this is what I do. I'm a broker. We work for several different companies. And then I let them know, as I show you some of the options, I've been doing this long enough, because you want to tell them that you've been doing it for a long time. I've been doing it for a month. I'm not going to go in there and tell them, hey, I've been doing it only for a month. I tell them, hey, I've been doing this long enough that I know when someone says I want to sleep on it, I want to pray on it, it means the price isn't right. So my job is to get to the right price so that you're comfortable with it and you're able to afford it and your family's protected. And right there and then subconsciously, you already put in their head, you have to buy today. You have to make a decision today, even though you didn't tell them that, but that's what you told them. That's what they're hearing. Hey, I got to make a decision. So already put in their head, hey, I got to make a decision today. So even if the price isn't right, what happens is they'll tell you, hey, well, that's not right. And you start going from there. But that's worked for me several times. But the main thing I think that's helped me is I block the bad attitudes. I block the bad vibes. I block the customers that are irritated. And I used to use this quote a lot when I was in my prior life. Price only matters in the absence of value. You know, what does that mean? When you present a policy, if you're selling windows and you present windows, you're not presenting the price. You're presenting the value of it. You're presenting, hey, this window seals, this window locks automatically, this window has magnetics. When you present a policy, it's the same thing. I learned what the policy does. Hey, if it's whole life, hey, this policy is never going to expire on you. This policy is going to create a cash value. If I'm presenting a term and it's ROP, hey, this policy at the end of the 30 years, if you didn't use it, it's kind of like you got free insurance. You got this lifesaver tax-free savings that you got that you can use for whatever you want. So I focus on creating the value of the policy. I never tell them the price till the end. I don't focus on anything but the value. And then when I present the price, yeah, obviously that goes into the budget and stuff like that, but they already know, hey, this is a good value. You know, I got that from, you know, you can get that from books. Apple does the same thing. You know, Harley does the same thing. You never see these companies discounting their price because they focus so much on the value and the product. They don't need to discount it. They don't need to do anything like that. They stand behind the product, and it's kind of my mentality when I walk in. I stand behind what I sell. So
that is so good, and you really locked into, you know, if you aren't focusing on the value, people will price quote you. You know, they'll run to the next lowest dollar amount because all that matters to them is the price. And you're exactly right. It's the reason why in my presentation, it's probably pretty close to Omar, how you do yours, since you know, focus so heavily on agent training, is I don't really talk about price ever until the last probably 5 minutes before we're taking an application. So it isn't about the cost. It's about the value. It's also the reason why, I mean, think about it, guys. You're walking into homes where people live on $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year, and they're spending $200 a month for cable. Think about that. Why are they doing that? They're doing it because they find value in cable. I mean, that's the reason why. They're able to justify in their minds that that's okay and it's worth the expense. The same thing is true with cell phones. You know, people who drive cars. It's comical to me when you pull up to a trailer home and they've got a Mustang out front. It's just comical to me. But that's what's happening. They find more value in a depreciating asset that eventually will rust than, you know, a home. I mean, it is what it is. So if you can focus on the value, I think that will mitigate some of what you're hearing, and then lock in at the very beginning, making sure that you're setting up, you know. It's funny because, Omar, what you said, I've been doing this long enough to know that comes straight from agent training. I mean, that is as old as the day is long. I mean, that's just every single person that studies agent training should incorporate that. I have been doing this long enough to know. It doesn't matter if it's 1 week, 1 day. You've been doing it long enough to know. That's what happens.
You know, one of the things that I think helped me a lot, it's going to sound, I don't know how it's going to sound, but I didn't know a darn thing about this business when I came in. And I have to say, you know, that's one of the things I feel that has helped me the most is I had to do nothing but rely on Chris, on Mike, on Elazar, on Ron. You know, I tagged into one of Ron's meetings because it was a Hispanic one. He said, well, why don't you tag in so you can help me with it. Well, long story short, he didn't need me because there was a translator right there. But I didn't want to get off the meeting because I wanted to hear how his presentation was. I was on the phone with Balazar the day before yesterday, and I didn't want to do anything but learn how he calls people. And I gravitate to anybody that's successful.
That's the reason why you're successful. I love it. This is good stuff. I wasn't planning on teaching this stuff. I love how this organically happens. This is really good stuff. If you guys can be student of the business.
I hope I didn't mess up your plans for day too bad with that.
No, this is all about you guys, man. This is all about you guys. So this is good. This is really good. anything, I think we probably covered that enough to give you something to be able to run on, Brian. I think you got some really good nuggets. And hopefully what you got at the end there is just, if you're not yet, go and just be a student of the business inside of agent training. Beyond the phone, phone conference, the phone training that's Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. Be plugged in as much as you possibly can, because there's probably going to be a couple of things that you're going to learn that people are doing that they've become experts. I mean, Elazar has become an expert on the phone. He's way better than I ever was.
Yeah, he helped me a lot on the phone. Like I'm 1 out of 5 to 7 now on dial.
Yep. So just, again, like Omar said, focus on the people that are really good. You're not going to find one person that's the best at everything. You're going to gravitate and find people that are good at specific things, and just pull those in and incorporate those into your presentation, your focus, the things that you're doing. Omar, do you want to say something?
Yeah, let me just throw something out there. This is just kudos. My wife has friends that that's late. I wanted to bring aboard Spanish people speaking only.
Mm-hmm.
But she works for another company very similar to Symmetry Financial. She used to work, I believe, for Mutual of Omaha Direct, and they had an office here in El Paso. Well, long story short, they fired everybody and they started building an agency very similar to Symmetry Financial. Well, I was telling her the other day, I was at I was having lunch or dinner. I don't remember what it was, but all of a sudden someone's on Slack asking for information. Then you start getting all these replies on Slack saying, do this, do that, do this, do that. I don't remember what it is. You get so many of them. But just kudos to you, because she said, how do you handle that? I said, what do you mean? He says, yeah, Thelma, that's her name. She says that every time that anybody needs help, everybody just kind of shuts down, because no one wants anybody to be successful. No one wants anybody to be successful because they're so, I guess, jealous of everybody else, and everybody wants to be the best. And so, you know what? I can tell you from the get-go, when I started with this company, there is a tremendous amount of, I would say, healthy competition, because you got to have it. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to someone needing something, man, anybody's available to help. So, just kudos to you. I don't know how, that I believe that kind of attitude, that kind of mentality is developed to servant leadership. So just kudos, man.
I appreciate that. Well, it's just trying to put that in the fabric, and it all continues to happen through you guys. That the culture is instilled in the people that we bring on board by you guys following the same culture. And it's the reason why, and I'll just make this quick comment, it's the reason why that I am very quick to turn someone away that might dilute that culture. I don't care how good of a producer you might be. If you're going to dilute the culture, I don't want you here. Even if you might make me a bunch of money, I don't care. It's not about the money. It's about making sure that this is a great place that people can buy into, lock arms together. As a team, we can do way more than just one individual. So that's just kind of been my premise the whole time, is making sure that we're protecting the culture, because eventually people decide to stay or go based on culture. And there's a lot of other IMOs. There's a lot of other places people can work. This isn't the first shop that's been ever built. So we want to make sure that it's more about the relationships and everyone succeeding than it is about one person succeeding. All right, I want to move into, we spent a good time on that. That was a good little tidbit. I want to move into, and I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to do this in a unique way. You guys are going to get to see my my iPad. Let's see. You guys see that all right? I should be able to see the guide.
Yes, sir.
I'm doing this on the iPad because I want you guys to be aware that this is the only thing I use, with the exception of my phone sometimes. But it's the same. Anything that's a mobile device will show up the same on the guide and everything that we're going to do. So I want to go through and just look at pretend I'm in the home. How do I find stuff? How do you pull up quotes? How do you do things quickly and efficiently. And then I am going to switch over if we've got 5 minutes at the end, because Casey wanted to look at the WinFlex software. It wasn't until probably about, I would say, a couple of months ago, actually, that they revamped the mobile app and made pretty much everything available on the mobile app. So you probably won't need, when I first started, I had to use Mutual of Omaha's WinFlex software a little bit in order to get some of the extra things like disability and some of the other things, long-term care, things of that nature. What's awesome now is I really don't have to, which is great. But Casey, since you were the one that asked, I'm going to do Michigan. We're going to do, and again, I'm just kind of going through and making something up here. Casey, do you have a specific case that you want me to run through this and work with you so it's specific to your situation?
No, not necessarily. I just, I've been directed at times when I do the quoting, what I call the Mutual of Omaha, they're directing me to use WinFlex versus calling at times. So I really didn't know the importance and how often it's used. If it's not really used that much, and you don't think it's worthwhile training or me, I don't know, focusing on it, then I'll just.
Well, it's important to know. Again, the key is it's important to know where to get stuff when you need it. Then, because you'll just be an alert. If not, I know I don't ever carry in. Here's my dilemma. I don't have a Windows laptop to carry into a home, which means I can't use WinFlex. It's only available on Windows. I don't have a Parallels program on my Mac. So if I'm doing quotes on WinFlex, which I have it on here, I'll show you kind of what it is and how it looks and all that stuff. It's going to be because the client asked something after the fact and I'm running maybe a full long-term disability thing or long-term care or something of that nature. All of the life insurance items, for the most part, can be found directly inside of the mobile quoting system. So I'll just kind of show you how this all pans out. I mean, you guys tell me what you want me to put in here for the health categories. We'll do something crazy and weird, and we'll run with it. What do you guys want?
High blood pressure and diabetes.
Pretty common. High blood pressure, diabetes. When were they diagnosed? This guy is 50 right now. So, well, we can change that. You want to change that?
Probably after 50, because Mutual of Omaha probably won't come up with it. We did before 50.
We'll do after 50. No insulin and no crazy stuff. But we can change that and show you how it. So here we've got Term Express, and I do want to. We don't do this very often, but one thing that's super important that you guys pay attention to is every column on this. I mean, issue age, underwriting phone number, this fax number, and the email. Oftentimes this email, so like Forrester's New Business, that is the email that you can actually respond to all of the requirements when you submit an application. Obviously there's additional items. These are all tier 1. You can kind of see the different items as you go through these. You'll see if there's E&O insurance, things of that nature. Most of these don't require E&O. Americo Eagle Premier does. But I'm going to go back up here to Term Life Express. And one thing, I'm going to hit the run quotes. Now here's what you guys got to understand, okay? They recently changed this. So there's 2 ways you can do this. This is the new mobile web-based quoting system that actually has all of the stuff that the app has. So if you go in here and you say, okay, what was it that I was quoting? I'm quoting a Term Express, okay? And sometimes you won't know what it's called, so I have to go back and look at it. So Term Life Express, and it's pretty simple. So Michigan, the guys, what do we say, 55? We can do, let's do a 20-year at whatever. I'm not going to add any of these on here yet. Calculate. Done. I mean, it's that quick, okay? Now, used to be, and I don't even know that I need to train it any differently. It used to be that the mobile quoting system didn't have all those extra items. And so you had to go to, actually, I don't even have it on here. I'll show you how to get it though. You had to go to the App Store and search for Mutual of Omaha. And you want the quote for sales. So you get to actually see how to get it.
Nice.
So it's literally that easy. I mean, you can go straight into, it's going to download the updated rates. This is not going to be any different than the web, but if you're in a home that doesn't have, let's say doesn't have good cell service or things of that nature, maybe this is going to be a little bit better for you. I mean, it looks obviously exactly the same, but it isn't required that you have, I don't think it's required anyways, that you have the internet connected to it. Because again, if you've updated it, it should have all the stuff there for you. So all these are going to be the same. It's not going to be any different whether you do, web-based or whether you do the quoting system. It's all going to be the same. It's going to look the same. There's no difference. Okay.
Like I said,
What's that?
Whatever the WinFlex software that I have downloaded, per the direction I was given from a Mutual Omaha rep, this is, I get this 100%. The WinFlex software that I have looks nothing like this. That's why I was confused.
Yeah, the WinFlex software is archaic. It looks like Windows 98.
Yeah, it does.
You really, quite honestly, you really don't want to be showing them any of that because it just looks like you're from the 1990s or something.
So we don't have any use WinFlex. I can just delete it and.
Yeah. So I mean, all of this, and this is again, they recently updated this, which is really nice. It didn't used to be this easy, but you can get everything. I mean, from long-term care, you could never quote long-term care on this stuff before. I mean, anything you need to have access to, guaranteed universal life. I don't use Mutual of Omaha for a lot of that, but anything that they have, you pretty much can quote in here. If you need details that are above this, at that point, I probably would just call Mutual of Omaha. I mean, just we're looking at X, can you give me the additional information on it? But really, you don't. And guys, the big thing, one of the things that I found helpful to understand with Mutual of Omaha is the difference between Term Life Express and Term Life Answers. The two differences is Term Life Answers is the fully underwritten. Number one, okay? It's fully underwritten. Doesn't matter the amount, period. Anything that you send in as Term Life Answers, it's fully underwritten. The second thing that's a big deal is it does not have the same living benefits as the Term Life Express has. Term Life Answers has less living benefits than Term Life Express. So I've got one client in the last 6 months that has a fully underwritten Mutual of Omaha because that's what they wanted. And she was not as healthy she was healthy, but she needed the price point to come down. And if you look at the difference between the two, it is a significant cost difference. But again, back to what Omar said, it's not about the price, it's about the value. And you have to focus on those living benefits, guys, are phenomenal. They are what sells the Express issue. It's the same reason why it also sells with National Life Group. I rarely use anything else besides those two companies unless you get into, like Transamerica is great for people that are overweight. UHL, there's a lot of specific companies that are specific for certain things. Anytime you're doing whole life products, it's going to be, Mutual of Omaha Living Promise, Eagle Premier, UHL, Deluxe. It's going to be those items. Those are totally different. But just understand, I always start with Mutual of Omaha. That's who I always start with. And then I go down from there. And if someone is fighting me on price, if that ends up being the case, and they could qualify for Mutual of Omaha, then I already know they can probably qualify for National Life Group, and their term's going to be a shade less. So it's one of those things where, again, understanding the ins and outs, and I would also encourage you guys to read up on the details of the accelerated living benefits for each of these carriers. Read up on those. That is what sells these products. People love it. And one thing that I didn't know until I think actually Elazar mentioned it, or it might have been another gentleman that's not with us anymore. But inside the Living Promise, you guys know that Living Promise has accelerated benefits on it? It just blows my mind that they would even have it, number one. And even if you go to a guaranteed issued policy with AIG, you know, AIG has living benefits on it. It's just, if you guys don't utilize these things, it is, I mean, I have people I walked into a home about, I think it was about 4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe a little longer than that. She was on oxygen. She was massively overweight. She wanted coverage, and she wanted living benefits. AIG. I mean, that's the only thing she could get. And she was ecstatic that she could get something that had a nursing home rider on it. She was ecstatic. She couldn't believe it. So you know, it's an easy sale when you use the value of the product. It didn't matter the price at that point. It was just we got the amount that she could handle and she could afford. Didn't matter about the price. It was the value. So these are really, again, I would encourage you guys to just spend some time inside of the software understanding, because I can get quotes very quickly if I need to on items. I mean, it's not difficult at all. You know, you can plug these in.
Hey, Mike, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Is the Living Promise, is that like Mutual of Omaha's final expense kind of insurance, or? It
is. In fact, it is the best. If someone can get it, it is the best cost for the death benefit. If you compare it across the line, same age, all the different products, if they can qualify for Mutual of Omaha, it will be about 10 to 15% less.
Okay, and you said they have living benefits, like what do you mean by the return of premium and stuff like that, or?
No, it doesn't have return of premium. It has now you're going to ask me stuff that I've been out of the field enough that I probably don't know the details.
Well, it's not a big deal. I can look it up. I was just wondering.
It's let me just see something for real quick. And one of the things that came up that we were going to try to do is we are going to actually try to have the details on the living benefits in the guide. But down here, if you look at maybe, where is it? Right here, Living Promise. They don't have the guide on here, so you can't look at it. I was going to go to the actual agent guide, but they don't have it.
Okay, so it usually has the agent guide, so I shouldn't even ask that. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's a good question.
If you click on the Living Promise, and then you click on the website, within that, it takes you right to the Mutual of Omaha website.
Yeah, so That's a good point. So if you go to Mutual of Omaha and you sign in,
I believe that one has the nursing home rider, it has the critical illness rider, it has
the key to hold on, can't talk and do this at the same time. The key to all of this is knowing the specifics. If you know the specifics of the riders, people will ask questions like, well, what about this scenario? Will I be able to do it in this scenario or that scenario? So that's kind of the key, is knowing the details. Sorry guys, this is not coming up and I have to do this the weird way. You guys are seeing all my passwords. Don't sell them off. Oh. Well, it won't let me go back. Awesome. Screw that. All right. So I was going to come in here and actually show you guys some of this. Actually, I don't think that's right. Let's see if I can get in. Yay. One of the things I will tell you guys is mess around with a lot of this, because the tendency when you're in the home with people is to get flustered when they're asking you something and you're trying to get somewhere you can't get to. Just candidly have a conversation with them while you're trying to go through some of this. You can go in here in products and you can look at, the specific products, critical illness riders, things of that nature, life insurance. They should have like term products, permanent products, indexed whole life. Living Promise is a whole life product right here. Face amounts, underwriting class, premium modes, all that, accidental rider. So here's riders, accidental rider, accelerated death rider. Here's the life portfolio, compare the different products. I mean, you can kind of glean through and look at all the details of what it has. But you should be able to find everything you need. And there's also probably some sales marketing stuff that you could look at. I will show this. See if I can find it easily. Some of you will find this valuable. I think it's at the bottom. Hold on. Okay, right here. On this tab inside of Mutual of Omaha, they've got this evaluate. It's kind of in an obscure place. This is Mutual of Omaha's way of determining the actual rate class it's like a risk assessment online.
Oh, that's cool.
That can be used to kind of help figure out some of it. It's pretty detailed, so weight, 135, let's say never use tobacco. I mean, literally, like how much alcohol do you drink? What's your current blood pressure? I mean, like literally, if you want to know, very detailed. So 120/80, I'm perfect. Don't know the others. Have you ever experienced any weight loss in the past year? No. Have you experienced unexplained weight loss of 10%? No. So right now we're at preferred plus is what we're at. Has a family member similarly died due to cancer? Yes. Oh, we dropped down to preferred. Okay, so you can see kind of how all that's going to pan out based on some of this. And it's going to have a long list. So these are like specific conditions. Again, the guide is going to drop out a lot of this. But if you really run into a unique situation and you think maybe Mutual of Omaha, then you can come in here and do some of this without having to call them if you want. So that's a tool that you might be able to use effectively as well. Again, that's inside of, best way to get to it is inside of the sales tools. If you go to sales marketing and then go to life, and then it's all the way at the bottom. It's very obscure. And guys, if you're not using electronic apps, like just please quit using paper apps. They're annoying. If you have to because it's your first application, that's totally fine. I get it. I had to send in a paper app the other day because of a specific product, but just you'll love electronic applications when you start using them. All right, so that should be pretty clear. I mean, I hope you guys are using, again, it was funny. I was asking some of the key leaders in the agency, hey, what do you guys find would be helpful if we talked about this morning in the mentor session? And it was comical because we talked about the guide and making sure that we understand how to get quotes and all that. But the follow-up to all that was just make sure that they're using it.
Exactly.
Hey, Omar, I saw that, man. I saw that. Just make sure you guys are using this stuff. If you're not using it and if you're not practicing it and you're not comfortable with where to find this stuff, you can make a 45-minute meeting go to 2 hours. I mean, it's just, and you'll lose a sale left and right if that happens. So make sure you guys are using the ins and outs of the guide. Make sure that you're comfortable with it. I will show you guys. I'm going to switch over to, come on. I'm going to switch to my computer here. and I will show you for kicks and giggles. There's my family, by the way. I will show you guys WinFlex. So here is WinFlex, and I will show you what it looks like. It looks super exciting when you're working with a client. So, I mean, yeah, all this stuff is here, and yes, you can come down and pick the products. You can kind of, Term Life Express, but this is so non-user friendly. The only added value that you get when you do something like this is when you do the input, it does have some nice little, like, here's what it is, and here's the guaranteed period for your product, and accelerated benefit rider, kind of what it is. So you can get some policy features in it from a compliance standpoint that kind of have to have that. So it's okay to have it and run stuff. I rarely use it. I've never used this in the home, in all honesty. But I will use it to say, okay, is there additional things that I'm not aware of that I need to be aware of? This common carrier death benefit provision. Whoever uses that as any kind of, like, these are the features that you guys need to focus on, to be aware of, to talk about, and be comfortable with, because these are part of the benefits. If you're just selling a term life product and you're not talking about this, Mutual of Omaha is a little more expensive than Joe Blow down the street. So make sure that you're talking about the benefits. That's really the only value that you can find inside of the WinFlex guide. All right. I'm going to stop there. Any questions about any of that? And then if not, we'll kind of move forward and be done with the day. But any questions with anything that we've talked about, concerns, comments, thoughts, anything else that we need to cover today to help you guys be productive over the weekend? Okay, then we're done. I appreciate you guys. You have an awesome day. Hammer it hard on the phones. Get a lot scheduled today. Again, today, tomorrow, over the weekend are the key times for us to get the week laid out well for next week. I will tell you guys this. We have some really solid commitments from the whole team, and I know you guys are the ones that are able to make the group mentor session. My encouragement to each of you is just make sure that you have that commitment front of mind. Make sure that you're focusing on knocking out a couple $1,000s a week of your commitment, or for those of you that have a larger commitment, kind of make sure you're knocking that down. If we have 100% of the people that have given commitments, and this is a big deal. This is why I'm saying we can only be as good as the team pulls together. Okay. Our largest month in the history of the Colburn Agency is $183,000 of submitted premium. That's our largest month. Last month, we did 125, okay? Commitments, we have $313,000 committed. Guys, that is literally bordering 3 times what we did last month. Now, I recognize that some people probably won't hit their commitments. That's just reality. But even if we do 70% of that goal, it will be well above anything that we have ever done. And just to give you context, 183,000 was done in a 5-week turn-in. This is a 4-week. So I really, as a team, let's all pull together. Let's all kind of make sure we focus on hitting our numbers. If each of you hit your goals, the team will be that much closer to hitting the entire goal. So it's not about you. It's not about me. It's about the team. Let's help support the team. Let's help make sure that we all kind of hit a record, and then we can all celebrate together. And make sure you get to conference, get to Tulsa event so that we can all celebrate together. Omar, I understand I'm going to pick on you every time I say the Tulsa event. You're going to think, man, I'm not going to be able to go. That's okay, man. I'm going to keep picking on you. I'm going to blame your wife. It's her fault. All right, guys. Appreciate each one of you. Very proud to be working with you. Have a great week, and we'll see you in the next couple of days, okay?
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Mike.